Hi there, welcome to Directors Debrief, episode 15. As we've just discussed, and you'll find out in the bloopers reel that Ram will cruelly edit against me. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not as good as you, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah.
How have you been? How's the last week been for you?
Yeah, it's been quite an intense week actually. A lot of new stuff going on.
Yep.
I think the same for you, right?
Yep.
But we're getting there as we always do.
Yeah, we don't tend to talk
on.
specifics, so
No,
we'll
I think we can talk about this one a little bit though. Like obviously you're managing a fresh project for us in the consultancy side.
First time.
Yeah.
Like I've managed other projects, but this is the first time where we've signed on the client and you're like, Sam, you got this? I was like, yeah. And then I kind of took over from there.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. There's some very high targets that I'm really confident we can get. Mm-hmm. The numbers don't support me just purely because of the time frame. We didn't get started as soon as we wanted to, but it's okay. I still think we can do it. I still think we can reach it, and I don't think we'll upset too many people if we get close enough.
No, hopefully not. And I think the main thing here is your whole goal is to kind of crack that structure well enough that we've got a couple of clients of very similar nature coming through in the next month or so, and you're going to kind of replicate and repeat. Going forward. So yeah, that's the thing I'm most excited about, that you building the structure behind this, which is going to be potentially a huge part of our business going forward.
We do have a question from Ram, but I wanted to talk about something else. Was it Monday? I think you and I sat in this very room and we mapped out. You'd done this. I've done this as well separately. We mapped out every step of a client's, of what we do for each individual client.
Yeah.
And I had this weird contrast in my head where we were looking at it, of how we wrote it out on this very board. We mapped out the process of what it looks like, all the way from onboarding them, the purchase order process, managing the stock, managing the Amazon listings, their e-commerce sort of presence, all the way through to like delivering it to the end consumer.
Yeah.
Did you think that the way we got to that process is completely different to how you imagined building a business and building a structure is?
Completely.
Okay, how is that different for you? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. It feels like a year down the line. Well, we've been going longer than it, but a year down the line, we just looked at it and went, yeah, that's our process.
Yeah, I think, this could be a LinkedIn post in itself, but essentially going into, when you say, as someone who's going into business, right? So I have friends that say, Ash, I want to start a business. I want to do X, Y, Z, and so on. And I said, okay, what are you going to do about it? What have you got? And they go, I've got this business plan set up, ready to go. Yeah. I'm going to do X, then I'm going to do Y, and then this structure works. And in theory, makes perfect sense. I can't critique it at all.
Yeah.
The thing is, and again, to some it would be so obvious, but what we've learned the hard way is that you've got to chuck that out the window. You've got to actually get going with the process, like actually crack on with your strategy. So with the deal that we were working on for the last year and a half, everything we thought about that deal, when we were having all those meetings with the initial client, saying yes to things that were slightly out of our comfort zone in some respects, but we knew what to do and we had the resource available. Everything that we planned out there is completely changed. Some of the structures there, the vision still stayed the same, but the way we've kind of executed it. And that's kind of like my feedback to that you've got to get going, and the lessons we've learned, the process is that, X that we thought would be really easy took a lot more time, but Y, where we thought we'd dedicate most of our time, we had a solution straight away, and really get working on that. And through the year and a half of working with that client, it's gone from something that was kind of a little bit uncomfortable for us to second nature. Like I'll ask you about compliance, I'll ask you about things it's what we do now.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, right? How do you find what the next step is? Because compliance, import, and all of those I think those are the aspects that you said we didn't think we would need to devote a lot of attention to. We did. Now it's second nature. Do you wait for those challenges to come up, or were you already kind of like behind the scenes Googling import, compliance, what a bill of landing means?
Outing is on microphone, but genuinely, like, we knew what that was. We'd never done it to that nature, that degree of that, how much, the amount we've imported over the last 12 months has been incredible.
I think we've imported up to like pallet loads. This is containers.
Container loads.
And then this is compliance. This product had to be registered with the UK government?
Essentially, in terms of like cosmetics and and healthcare products.
Tell Ash deals with the compliance.
No, so again, it was something completely alien to us, but we went in and we said, right, we don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to figure everything we can about this. Speaking to as many people as possible, getting that little bit of advice from, there's no one person that gives you everything you need to know. You need to speak to about 10 different people. Each one gives you a nugget of information. Some people give you nothing, but at least you've had a chat and you've kind of given everything you need to. And through all of that, you collaborate all that information you've got and you build what you think your strategy is. And through speaking to different people, some made it really complex, far more complex than it needed to be. Some oversimplified it. We blended that all together, and I think we've got a solid process. So much so that we're now kind of pitching that to other clients and
absolutely,
in other ways. So, but on your side, did you? How did you envisage that going from where we were a year and a half ago to where we are now? Did you think that process would be the way it went?
Yes, but the way we got there was completely different. I don't know if you remember, you'd walk in here and I'd like have my hair all like messed up and I'd written like literally top to bottom worth of notes. I had notepads full of it. Essentially, I tried to map out what we should be doing and try to follow that. The hard lesson I learned was kind of like you said with the plan, like you kind of have to throw it out the window. Also, better still, I realized that was much more for me than the business. I was writing all of those notes. I was drawing out the process. I even wrote out like a flow chart of what it happens, like from portfolio management to getting the product compliance, because that's like a one-off to get it compliant is a one-off process, and then to maintain it as a compliant thing is whether you require labels or other things. That's an ongoing process. But I wrote all of that out on the board, and I thought I was going to we use Monday.com. I invited you to the board, and I was like, let's do this, let's follow this. And I even sat you down and I asked you, like, where are we at with this? Where are we at with that? I realized when you're doing something for the first time, you can't be that rigid. But what it was really good for me was for me to like conceptualize it in my head. Off with you, Ram. Off with you. So yeah, I thought I could write out a process and then get the team on board to follow it before we'd actually figured out what we needed. So yeah, I was like, Ash, where are we up to with this? Where are we up to with that? And I didn't realize that this we didn't need. That is twice as important. And I think a year down the line now, or a year and a half down the line, now it's critical. Now it's critical to take all of your learnings and then actually write out a process to sort of grow it, because I did it on a Google Sheet, you did it on your giant ass notepad, and we sat down here and we discussed all of those components.
Yeah, completely. And I think this is where the kind of the strengths of both of us work well together, because as we've said, like you're very much about the process, the structure and everything, which is crucial at this point now, because everything that I've been saying and kind of visualizing, if we were trying to just follow that kind of arbitrary vision, it'd be very difficult to scale at this level of the business. And I think that's where you coming in, I mean, I still remember those days where you were mapping out on the board. You were saying, Ash, what about this? Like, who's managing that? We can't possibly manage it all ourselves. We need to get the right team in place, and the structure that works perfectly.
I think what I learned the hard way, though, and I interrogated you about this when you showed me your process, was all of the different sections that I had written out there, from like creation of PO, import, labeling, compliance, all of that stuff. When you wrote that out in front of the board, I interrogated you, right? You said you'd written compliance and you wrote down who the where the ownership was, who was looking after that section. And I said, all right, what does that mean? What does compliance mean? What are the things that have to be correct? Otherwise, would be liable to a lawsuit. Who knows? And you were able to explain it to me in very good detail. I don't think at that time I was able to. So whoever I assigned that task to, I wouldn't necessarily have been able to check over the work and then make sure they did it right.
That's interesting though, because at that point when we were going through each of the processes, you were vetting me, and there was a reason behind that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and what was that reason?
So at the end, I said, "Oh, now I can reveal to you why I interrogated you, because you'd written down names next to each individual section, and I said that's what you tell that person. Those are the three things." I think I asked POs, when you're creating a purchase order. Tell me what has to be bang on, and you listed off about let's say about 5 or 6 different things. And I said that's what we verify. So somebody takes ownership of that, and then the occasional one you can sample, you can check and make sure they got that right. Because some of them have huge consequences. Like it's the same product but allocated to different country. This is a huge international corporation. So they create the same product but for different geographies. So like the item codes and things like that. So the idea was to create some sort of like verification checklist Because the only reason I'm taking on this client that we discussed at the beginning of the podcast is because we can't both devote all of our time. There's so many parts of the business that need our time. So yeah, it's not something that like you can't devote so much of your time creating the purchase order, but we need to know what on that purchase order needs to be.
It's absolutely vital. Yeah.
And so we did that for every step of the way.
Yeah. I thought that was pure genius when you said that, because that made a lot of sense to me.
The showmanship, I feel like, added to that rather than the actual thing that I did, because I revealed at the end what the reason for interrogating you was. So it was more showmanship.
But it perfectly tees off with Ram's question earlier to us of, I'm going to paraphrase it. It was basically, how do you kind of check up on people that are doing work for you, or you're managing, and making sure that they're delivering on the work they're doing, kind of they're meeting the expectations, goals, and so on. Definitely paraphrase that, but probably in the best route. And to be honest, when people say that, they're like, "Oh, do you monitor people's emails? Do you do that?" And the truth is, no. Maybe I want them to think that. No, but maybe I want them to kind of have that nature. But really, there is no way you can monitor all of that. But teeing off on what you said earlier about what are the expectations, what are the main things that you need to get right in certain processes, I think that's a great way of just checking in on their work. I deal with Rinny, who's our data analyst, and she sent me some work just before this podcast. And I can't possibly look through everything. It's taken her hours and hours to put together, but I can check certain points that I know should be right. Like, is this connecting right with the spreadsheets? Are you feeding the data correctly, and so on? Are the prices that you've inputted correct? And just checking a few touch points. I think with anyone you're managing, if you're just checking those few kind of key indicators, then they're on to a winner. It may not be 100% correct, but I think that's a really nice way of checking in.
Quite controversially, but I think if you can monitor everything everybody is doing, you're probably hiring the wrong people. Because how many times have you looked at a data report or a spreadsheet that Rinny's presented and just gone, she pulls up profit reports and things like that, and we don't just sell on one platform, we sell on like 5 or 6. Within Shopify, there is another like handful of a dozen worth of like different links and URLs. Shops within that. I think if you can monitor everything that everybody is doing, it's impossible. I can't actually verify what Rinny's doing. I can verify whether she's presenting the right information. Like, for example, with profits. I'm sure you have a rough estimate in your head as to where we're at various different stages of the business, and she'll show you how we got to that. And then you can verify the big numbers and say, okay, good. Now that I know that what you're doing is correct, let's dive deeper into the components.
And how you got into that.
You sent me a reel on Instagram that was just like, you ever sit there as the dumbest person in the room, but you hired everyone.
And genuinely, that is how I feel sometimes. I'm like, this is, I see yourself and Rinny working together, and I'm just sitting in the room, and I'm like, I know what we want to achieve here. I kind of probably set the expectation there, but whatever they're doing, whatever they're talking about, it sounds really fascinating, and good luck to them on that. So no, I think it's brilliant, and it's credit to the team we're hiring. Obviously, we're bringing some new members into the team as well as we're progressing with these new deals. And we spoke about something earlier this week, and I think a lot of companies think very similarly, but it's interesting for us is WP blood.
Okay, let's go into this.
So it's this kind of facet of when we're hiring now, and through the team that we have, the wonderful team that we have, there's something that we require from the team. It's not a certain attribute as such. It's not a certain thing that they do, that they all do. But it's the way they take on tasks, the way they approach customers, clients, and so on. It's what I call WP. Have I explained that in the similar way to how you probably describe WP blood?
Kind of. That means different things to us, and I think if we were to to discredit ourselves, I think it's more startup blood. And a lot of startups won't necessarily have this, and they might feel like their performance is declining or whatever. But it is a certain, I would say it is an attribute, because let's take one of our warehouse operatives that was eventually promoted to a warehouse manager, right? I don't just need him to quality check the work. I need him to create the process that quality checks the work.
Right.
And that's quite a hard expectation of somebody that hasn't necessarily worked in management before. And so if you just tell him like, hey, can you make sure the quality is good there? then they might come back to you with the odd bits. Somebody that lacks the experience and lacks the blood might just come back to you and go, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who has this startup blood, this WP blood, will come back to you and say, I've created a process where I can continuously check the quality of it.
Yeah.
And some part of that you got to bring to the table, and some part of that is on the management's responsibility to inject. You saw the email I sent today of like, this is the end goal, here's some steps I recommend to get there, and a deadline. And so I look forward to it. It's in about 2 weeks' time. But that's it. It's you can send that email to 100 people, and if only 2 people have the WP blood, they'll come back to you with the process and their expectations.
Sure. So on that particular thing that you send out, is that something that had been brewing with you for a little bit of time, and you're like, right, this is now the expectation. I need the team to fix it, or how does that come about?
In terms of the QA checks,
yeah,
dude, I've wanted that forever, but we just finished Q4. Well, we didn't just finish Q4, but Q4, the craze, anybody in e-commerce will know what I mean by this, but in the fourth quarter of the year, sales spike, and we're just crazy busy, and it's absolutely a blessing, and it's wonderful.
It kind of spilled over into January a bit as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's been doing that consistently since the pandemic, but you don't necessarily get a chance to sort of sit down and evaluate where you are at a business. We're working with the University of Leicester on a sustainability project, trying to improve, become more green. Promise I'll stop using some of these buzzwords now, but it's an area we didn't know where we stood. So we reached out to the local university. They have sustainability officers. They came down and did an audit. I think that audit is more valuable to us than any action we can do going forwards, because we now know where we stand. And just coming off the end of the Q4 busyness, the craze, that's where I could actually sit down and think to myself, what am I not happy with? What can we change here?
Yeah.
And it's actually something you raised in passing, in terms of we do a lot of FBA prep, and you're like, these aren't consistent. They're absolutely fine. They're 100% compliant. Amazon's going to receive that into their thing, and it will be shipped to the right customer. A lot of customers probably won't even notice that the label's slightly askew or whatever. But we don't want to be the company that has the label slightly askew. We're always, and that's again part of the WP blood or the startup blood, is that you should aim for perfection for everything. But like, you can't expect it to come overnight. So yeah, now that I had a chance to think, from what you said, I was like, I'm not happy about this. It's time to fix this.
Yeah.
And
create a process behind it. And you're right, because if you're creating that process behind perfection, then it becomes second nature, and the team are being reaching that standard without really even trying.
I have another thing on that. The other thing that sparked this interest to do this was an error that we made.
Okay.
Very annoyingly, but a customer in America received like one item short in a delivery. You're the one who forwarded me their complaint, and we refunded them. Now, ultimately, it was $2, and I couldn't care less about the money, but I felt like personal embarrassment that like my team let this happen, and that I think is a part of like WP blood. It's not the money, $2, big whoop, like, but it's the fact that I felt this within myself, like that's us. Yeah, we did that. I think the team we currently have and the greater scope of the outside teams that we work with as well, it's very important to us that they feel that too. Yeah,
exactly. And I think to some people that can sometimes be seen, certainly those that may not be involved in operations, that can sometimes be seen as a bit toxic. You know, the fact it was one error, man, let it go. You know, these things happen. But I from my side, looking into the operations side, I see it as some kind of game like whack-a-mole, right? And the moles essentially are the errors that creep up. And like, fine, one error, it's just one mole that's just popped up. No. But I think when you see an error, you don't see one mole. You see them all creeping up if you just let that one slide. And it's really just trying to kind of isolate that issue as quickly as possible, figure out what's causing this to prevent it all coming through and the errors kind of falling through the net.
Dude, there's I love that you said that. That's I totally feel that. And well, I think it was more evident in my earlier career because you'd actually see it physically get to me, and I've learned that that's not how you deal with that. But also, if you're looking outside in and you think that that's toxic, I think there are layers. I think if I was to look at that slight error, grab the team into this meeting room and just grill them for half an hour and tell them to get out, I think that's very toxic. Because people will be tiptoeing around the business. I think to create an environment where people feel that within themselves of like, no, I'm putting my pride into this. I don't want this to go out looking like this, or I don't want customers to receive incorrect items. And thankfully this wasn't in the healthcare sector, but 99% of our inventory is healthcare.
Yeah.
It's important that we get these things right. But what I said to the gang, you saw in the email of just like, look, the end goal is that we don't let this happen again. And that was it. Nobody was in trouble. I wasn't angry at anybody.
Yeah.
We're human and mistakes happen. But humans can create processes to sort of avoid letting this happen in the future anymore.
It's incredible. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just teeing off on that, you obviously we're having our debrief now, but we've had quite a few debriefs this week.
I know.
Right?
I've actually gotten to see you quite a lot.
Yeah, compared to what normally happens on an average week. So for those that don't know, which is probably everyone, Sam and I obviously had this little catch up this week where we were kind of crazy mad scientists, both drawing and squiggling on our whiteboard. Yeah. But we also had a catch up and we went for some food.
Dude,
date night, as some may call it.
We're getting a lot of like comments about that.
But
Huh?
Yeah, just, we're getting some comments right now live as well.
No, I can't tell if is that sarcasm or.
Yeah. I see it as comment. Some people see it as comments. I see it as jealousy because it was an incredible night. Probably goes, if it was a date night, it would go up there as like in the top couple on that part. So yeah, it was good though, right? Good food.
I'm gonna get an angry text after this, aren't I?
Yeah, that's what we're teeing up for. But it was good food.
Dude,
very good
Dishoom.
food.
I know this isn't a food podcast. Have you been to Dishoom? Okay.
We got a debrief.
Everyone's told me to go.
Yeah, I've been told to go for the longest time, and we finally went, and it was outstanding. It was genuinely incredible. Sorry, we normally have Ram behind the camera, but we have one of my closest friends, Kern, of many, many years. He's behind the camera.
Well, wave.
Yeah.
There you go, he's waving right now.
He's waving at everybody. So you haven't been to Dishoom?
No.
I feel like we were on a Zoom call, and you said you had.
No, I think Lee went.
Ah, yeah. Big foodie.
So Dishoom, for those that don't know, is how do the way to describe it? It's an Persian Indian cuisine.
You gave me the whole backstory on the drive there.
Yeah,
it's in Birmingham. Which
I was just glad that he backed me up on that. So
I know.
Yeah.
But tell us the backstory, and then I have a few questions about that.
Okay, so apparently there's a lot of apparentlys in this story, but back in the day, a long time ago, there was a bit of migration from Persia, Iran, the Iranian area, through to India. This happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but there was a bit of a migration. And with migration comes a migration of food and kind of the styles of food and things. And a lot of them migrated towards Bombay at the time. And this was in British India and prior to British India. And they would set up these Irani cafes in the heart of Mumbai. So they're kind of like street food places. So if you know your Indian street food, you got your pani puri, your pav bhaji, all your different curries and so on. But it's nice and quick food. You can also get it on the side of the street, so not just in your cafes. Thing is, it's a dying kind of business in Mumbai, or it was for a while. And we had some cool people that went over from the UK to Mumbai. Said, hey, these are dying, but it's incredible, and we love the atmosphere around these. You can chill, you have your bit of chai, you have your drinks, your lassis.
Unlimited, if I'm not mistaken.
Unlimited, yeah.
We didn't come around.
We didn't, we were too full. But they took that and they brought that concept to London back in the day. And I mean, most people probably heard of Dishoom in one way or another, but it's well and truly smashed it in the restaurant business.
And I fully think that rarely do places actually live up to the hype. Harvey's still about. Yeah, rarely do places live up to the hype as much as that one did, but it was genuinely delicious. But I said I have a question for you, right? Why the hell do you know all that? Why the hell do you know all that?
Because I'm just sad.
No, like, pick a country, any country.
Japan.
No, it's too easy. Pick another.
Oh, no, because now, okay, go.
Pick another country.
Argentina.
What's the capital of Argentina?
Buenos Aires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Maybe I could have guessed it.
You could have guessed it. Yeah, it's not
like,
that. I'm no mastermind, man. Don't.
No, that was quick.
Right?
It was fast.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like we gotta go on a walk around Leicester with this guy, and he'll tell me what a statue means. He'll tell me, this is really cool. This is the financial district, or this is what's gonna be there. How do you know all this stuff?
Yeah, just it's good chat for dates. No, but genuinely.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
just
we
know how much
got to
trouble
cut
you're
that
gonna
round,
get
please.
into saying that.
Probably not. If anyone gets to this point in the podcast, then it's all right. But no, it's just I don't know, man. Really, you know how we all have like weird things in our mind, like Eminem, Love Yourself. Yeah, I don't want to know what's in your mind. But we all have that bit of unnecessary knowledge. Yeah.
No, because do you know, when I went to Berlin and I met up with my friend, she was telling me all of the same kinds of things. I wasn't thinking of you the whole time, but it did pop up into my mind where we were walking past this like house that was full of graffiti, and it had been abandoned for years. And this charity like took over. I just realized I'm saying this on camera, so this could all be inaccurate. I could have, but apparently something happened where it was taken over, and now it provides food to homeless people. I'm like, how do you know that? And then you know about the history of why. You know, of the schooling system. And I was there with loads of questions and I was asking, and she had the answers to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we go around Manchester where I grew up, I like none of that is relevant anymore. Like, so the other day, Anya asked me for like recommendations when Chloe was going to, none of these names matter to any of these people, but recommendations for like cafes. And I went, I don't know. I don't even know a good cafe spot anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, why do you know all this?
Yeah, I think a lot of places change, but okay, put it this way: have you ever gone around a place like a city or something, and like you say, you were talking about Berlin, right?
Yeah.
Having that tour guide or that person adds so much more value to
insane,
your time, right? We went to
so
Dishoom,
cool.
right? And I thought I was being a little bit sad, but I was giving you a bit of a background. You know, when we were there, I was talking about things and
It
stuff.
impresses the hell out of me.
Yeah, I'm glad, but it just adds a bit more to the experience. And I've had that. I've felt that when I've gone to certain places, like I've visited somewhere abroad, and luckily I've had someone who's incredibly knowledgeable about a certain like bit of history. I love history.
Yeah.
And it just changes my opinion of everything. I'm like, I love this place. I like this so much, whether it's true or not, or half of it's true. But history's not even true anyway. In about 99% of the time. So it just adds that little bit of story and energy to.
But dude,
to
my
where
problem
you are.
with that is I'm so like I look at you in awe, and again the same with my friend in Berlin. I was like, this is so impressive, and I'm just trying to absorb as much of this information as humanly possible. But the tiny evil part of my brain is like, you're so dumb in comparison. You're so dumb in comparison.
Look, everyone knows their little bit. Like everyone has their bit of knowledge in their lane, and I think the thing here is, I've seen you talk about subjects that you're passionate about, and you'll go to town.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about Formula One. Actually, that's not. But here we go. And the way you explain it to a degree you don't know. So everyone has their passion subjects. It's why Mastermind exists as a quiz program, right? But yeah, I guess if you take someone to Dishoom, that'll be your next story.
I'll try and bring it up. What's up with you?
I really want to jump in. I feel like this little bit
Wait,
of knowledge thing.
Pull up a chair next to me, just so the microphone can hear you.
Roll round.
Yeah, or just sit in this one, and then you can grab the mic there.
Bringing an empty mug with me.
Yeah. Ram, edit like a little card that says Kern. Come take my place here.
Just like
I
the
should
lip.
have done like a nice.
Ta-da. All right, you know where to edit, Ram. Go on.
Oh, I just feel like this little bit of knowledge thing.
Yeah.
It plays on many levels, right? But the thing that flagged for me is it applies to people, right? So you have this. You could be driving somewhere, but probably could have just done this massively long drive. But you know, someone cuts you up. You don't like them. You want to say something. I won't say it now, but you want to say something. And ultimately though, if it's someone you do, you've got that instant sympathy for them. You may get really wound up or whatever, but you think, oh well, I'll let them off, give them the benefit of the doubt because I know this, that, and the other about them, or I like that person because of this. I mean, maybe the knowledge does go the other way, and you don't like the person even more. But I think you can take something that initially you have no real. You're less phased about something, right? So it's this whole. You're getting that little bit of knowledge, and it builds onto what you already knew. So having that addition can accentuate the situation. So in your case, obviously at the restaurant, you're enhancing the experience. But
I see.
In terms of like, having a little bit of knowledge about a person could completely change the direction in how you react to them, or
It's incredible, yeah.
Interesting connection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't know where that was going until the end, and I think that's like probably one of the best things I've heard today. So
I wasn't sure I was going to be able to navigate the explanation either.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. So just for my clarity, essentially what you're saying is just like I was saying with the restaurant or anywhere you go, a certain city, a place. If someone's giving you a bit of a background story, it enhances your experience and makes it more memorable. You're probably able to emphasize with it. I don't know, you could go to a rundown city. If someone was to give you some history about how this went through some civil war back in the day and hence the ruins, you start to be like, oh, these ruins are cool. And I understand why this building is kind of half full or half occupied or whatever, or the walls are broken and so on. What you're saying with a person is, if I don't know a certain person, I may just judge them like by their face value, kind of like, oh, this guy looks a bit rough, he looks a bit homeless or something. But if someone wants to give me a bit of background as to the person, saying, oh, back in the day, he was a scholar, he was a person, he had some tough upbringing, but he pulled through. Suddenly, exactly. It enhances your whole opinion. Have I got that right?
Yeah. And I think even going one step further than that, maybe there's an argument there for being less reserved about yourself and maybe even opening up to people more, because then you're actively giving people that extra little bit of knowledge. They're going to see you in a slightly better light, potentially a slightly worse light, but hopefully a slightly better light, or at least their experience of you is going to be more complete.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And so how do you do that without sounding egotistical and making it all about yourself?
I'm quite egotistical, so
yeah. Or you've just got it's just something you've got to get over.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's necessarily a balance to be had. But I don't know. I think you got to keep it likable, right? You got to try and interact with people on their kind of level. You don't want to come across like you're above people, or like
Do you think that's why personal branding really works for people, like on I don't know, like Instagram, LinkedIn and things, because people buy into the story about that person, so like they remember that person.
Yeah, we've gone quite an interesting circle here.
I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know, you could pick a Gymshark guy, Ben Francis. He gives so much about his story and everything that people don't just see him as like some rich guy who owns some company, which at face value you just assume that, and he's like, you see the story, the fact that he, the way he started it was, I don't know, Pizza Hut delivery driver whilst he was at uni. So you buy into that whole, and that helps his brand as well, I assume. And his everything.
Sorry, can I steal you?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is just massively relevant at the moment because of the interview with Molly May a few weeks ago, and now the video of Kim Kardashian going, it seems like young people don't want to work. It's like, maybe the only difference here is those two people came from wealth, because I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think they're saying anything wrong. I just don't think they're saying anything people don't. I think the anger doesn't come from the inaccuracy of what they're saying. The anger comes from the fact that they don't think that they're allowed to say stuff like that. Whereas when Ben Francis says it, it's like, all right, no, you didn't. It's just the backstory, right? That's the difference.
Maybe. I mean, Ben did come from some wealth, right? People know that he went to a very well-off school and things like that. But because he's given that experience and that context, he's saying it. Whereas when did Kim Kardashian show herself working hard? I'm sure she does.
But
I
could go on answer that, Kern. A fair bit.
I was going to tangent onto something else. So.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, not to actually tangent, but I will. It's kind of meta, but effectively what we're saying is what you're doing right now. Like, you're sharing that little bit more knowledge to everyone at home. You're giving that little bit more experience of who you guys are, and like you were saying earlier, yes, you make mistakes. Like, it's inevitable, right? It's going to happen every now and then. And from the flip side, the people that don't know you, all of those, every time you make a mistake, someone's going to judge you from outside, all the rest of it. But this is the kind of content, this is that little bit of knowledge that you're giving everyone on the outside, so that when you do make that little mistake, they can forgive you.
They get that, yeah.
Right?
You're preparing for the mistake,
Yeah, so it's they're going to watch, well, hopefully,
all that mistakes,
people that genuinely care about you, your customers that legitimately care about you, want to get to know who you are. You're doing something active to show them who you are, and at the end of the day, I think this is going to be the little bit of knowledge that allows them to go, you know what, they made a mistake, fair enough, we can rub it up, chalk it off the board. We know that they're going to learn from it because they've demonstrated that in their podcast. We know their mentality towards these problems and things. And so, okay, if you made a mistake, chances are we're never going to have that mistake again because we know that these guys are going to be on it. They're going to try and resolve that issue, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. It's a brilliant point.
Yeah, I think an excellent one to end on, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I'm probably going to need a debrief off camera at some point as well, because
Sure.
there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, brilliant.
You
So thanks very much, guys. This is episode 15 that you've been listening to with obviously our guest Kern, who's joined us today, and obviously myself and Sam. If you enjoyed it, you have anything to say, just comment below. Please like, share, subscribe, whatever you can, just to prop this up. We're still getting going with this podcast. We're on episode 16, but that's 15, as I always said. We're on episode 15 of many, many to come. So yeah, just let us know what you want to hear, where we're going, and if you liked our final point as well, let us know. Cheers.
Cheers.